Somebody typed out their life story and just put it on the shelf in the library. And their book is called We Have Hoed to the End of the Row. It's pretty interesting. So I'll summarize some of the highlights and then we'll go out to the woods and see if we can recreate some of the things that they talked about in their life story. Charles Beeler was born in the year 1900 and he had 7 siblings. His mother died in childbirth when he was just 8 years old, and the resulting child died a few weeks later in the care of his aunt, who he considered to be ill-equipped to raise a child. His memories of his mother consisted of nothing more than her death and her funeral. The father of Charles must have struggled immensely raising the rest of the children. He hired out helping hands and maids to help with the chores. It must not have been satisfactory because he remarried exactly 1 year later. Upon remarrying, Charles' father did something drastic. He sold the family farm in their hometown of Illinois and moved out to Nebraska on a piece of land that had nothing. It was here that Charles described the endeavor of having to build their own house in a place that was completely devoid of trees or building materials. And he described his house as a sort of sod house, which was made out of grass, dirt, and roots. He described that this house wasn't that bad and quite comfortable because it was warm and it kept the wind out. The home life, however, was severely lacking. He said that he received a great many beatings from his stepmother. She really wasn't emotionally attached to the boys. If there was any love in the house, he said he never knew about it. He described the food as consisting of beans, cornmeal mush, and pancakes burned black. He said that his mother purposely burned the pancakes black so that the boys would eat less of it, and the house was so full of smoke that you could barely see the other side of the kitchen. If you wanted anything to eat other than that, you had to go kill a rabbit, which was the only other thing that they could eat, and it was either that or nothing. Despite this, Charles said he had a decent childhood and he didn't have a care in the world. Charles described his work on the farm as being moving animals from one place to another, as well as rounding up and selling horses to the frequent horse buyers that came to this area to buy horses for the war efforts in World War I. Charles lived on the farm in the sod house in Nebraska until the year 1916, when his dad decided to do something else drastic. It was common during this time for salesmen to travel across the United States and sell notions, ideas of land in a faraway place that was beautiful and warm. It was the famous land scam, the Florida land scam. Well, the father of Charles fell for one of these scams. A traveling salesman came and sold him some land in Florida, told him how wonderful it was to live in a tropical paradise, and the family bought a car which they had no idea how to drive, and they headed south, they thought. Back in 1916, the roads weren't paved, and there were no signs, and there was no directions. And you just were supposed to get in your car and know where you were supposed to go. And so it took them 30 days of driving from Nebraska to get to Florida. His dad had no idea how to drive, and they had no idea where they were going. He says he was surprised that they ever made it at all. Now, when they got to Florida, when they finally got to Florida, they went to find the land that they had purchased from the land salesman. And of course, you know what happened. They did own land, but you couldn't get to it. It was completely unusable. It was underwater, miles and miles of swamp. The land was underwater. You couldn't even get there if you wanted to. The whole thing was a scam. The only other thing to do at the time was to take the land that you bought and sell it back to another land company that sold you some upgrade land. It's the classic cable scam. You buy cable, but you really don't have cable unless you upgrade to premium cable. And so this idea has been around for years and years and years. So they sold the land that was underwater, they took a loss, and they bought some better land in a higher, drier spot. After a series of bad deals of buying and selling land, losing money on every single deal in the famous Florida land scam, they settled in one of the most peculiar, beautiful, wild, and vicious places. This is Cape Sable, Florida. It's an island, and this is what it looks like today. But it didn't always look like that. Cape Sable was a salt marsh. It was desolate. It was ravaged by hurricanes. There wasn't very much fresh water, but the beaches were beautiful. However, it was true wild old Florida, and they were in for a very rough ride if they thought that they were going to live in Cape Sable. Charles, at the time, was a teenager, ended up getting a job with a survey crew in the wilds of Cape Sable, Florida. Now, the idea of a survey crew is to go out into the swamp, the jungle, the woods, and to take a map and a compass and to cut right through the jungle and to clear pathways so that the property can be sold. So this guy gets a job as a surveyor on an island in Florida. It's surrounded by salt water, and the only thing he has to drink is water out of a ditch, which he drank from a whiskey bottle that he kept strapped to his back. Okay, so I got some natural rope here, and the end of this always comes apart. So I'm going to whip that with some cotton twine. So here's how that looks. So now I need to lay a loop of rope down like that and wrap this around that loop of rope like 10 times. Okay, now I need to put this through that loop, and then I'm going to use that loop to pull that end through the wraps. Okay, the next thing that I need to do is untwist this right here, and I'm going to braid these ends right here back into the rope so that I can wear it on my back. So the rope has been braided back into itself, and so that's really strong connection, and the bottle neck is secured to the whipped end, and so this is almost done. Alright, we're going to give this bottle a cork that can't be lost, and I'm going to do it with this chain right here. So here's my cork that can't be lost. I need to put that in there, and I need to put this chain over the neck. So I'm gonna go get some water from the ditch over there to see what that looks like, but first we need to make a smudge pot so that we can actually get there without getting attacked by mosquitoes. Now, it's hard to figure out exactly what a smudge pot was, but it seemed to have been some type of can that you would fill with something that would make a lot of smoke. Alright, so there's some vegetation there. And then you would put some rotten wood in it, like some punky wood, like that. And then lastly, you would put some type of herb that was fragrant to humans but repulsive to insects. And so here I have dried sage. The smell of the sage is really good. got my smudge pot, got my axe to get through the wilderness back there, and there's a creek around here somewhere. I'm going to fill up this whiskey bottle. It's gonna be good. Let's go. Actually, it's not gonna be good. It's gonna be terrible. That's why we're out here doing this, so that we can understand what it was like for other people. That's living history. So let's go that way. Whoa. Giant frog. Oh, that ain't bad. That's not bad. That looks okay. Would you drink this water? I would, if I had to, but I don't have to because I live in a modern day world. But I would if I had to, and it's like everything out here is, you know, trying to get you in some way. I mean, life itself, the very thing that you need for life, is also full of pathogens and poisons, and you just gotta go with what you got. But I hear people complaining a lot, and I think that a lot of people that complain don't have anything to complain about. I mean, this guy, if you look at his life, you know, his mother died, and his dad abandoned him, and he lived in a house without love, and they got ripped off, and they did everything wrong, and he ended up, you know, doing some back-breaking work in the suffocating heat of Florida with nothing to look forward to but water from the ditch, a measly paycheck, and the choking smoke of hard labor in the wild, you know, swamp of Florida. And so that's what living history is, to see it, to smell it, to taste it, to experience it, and that might give you the knowledge you need to have like a better appreciation of what you have in the modern world. So yeah, that's only the start of the book. The rest of the book is his success as an adult. So it's very interesting to see that after all of that, he still turned out to be a very well-rounded, productive, educated person.